I think we're live.
I think we did it.
We did it. We did it, guys. This is the first step. We weren't sure if we were actually going to be able to do this, but we did it. Wow, very cool. Okay, so first of all, Cathy, this is my first live stream broadcast on Facebook and YouTube. Have you done this before?
Hang on, you guys hear all that? Ignore me. That's just my double audio. Everything's fine now.
Okay, good. Wait, Cathy, have you done this before? I've never done this before.
So I've done YouTube lives back in my court chatter days.
Right.
But right now we're simultaneously doing Facebook and YouTube. And so what we're looking at as a command center is totally new to me, totally different.
Got it. Well, yeah, this is my first one. I'm very excited to do it because I never get a chance to really get questions from the viewers, especially about this kind of case, because
or just drone on and talk about it. You know, we're always doing these short little blocks when we're live on the network, and you can't really dig in.
So, you know, it's going to be like 12 hours from now. 13 of the Vallow Daybell broadcast.
While we're letting people join, because I know it takes a minute to get in, I just want to pre-warn. Luckily, I know something about true crime people. They are animal lovers. And that's good for me because I have 2 dogs that are down on the floor next to me. If I try and put them out of my office, that'll be a problem. But if the Amazon truck shows up, I can't guarantee anything. I'm just going to mute myself as soon as I can because they can't be controlled at that point.
If they want to join in on the conversation, you know, just leave comments.
I'll just hold them.
You know what's crazy? So I've been here at Law&Crime since 2017. And we've covered, you know, huge cases, right? I've never seen anything like this. Whenever we talk about Vallow Daybell, even if we mention it for a segment, just the popularity, the interest in it is huge. I don't know why that is. What do you? I mean, again,
it's more than just. It's more than just we have all these cases, unfortunately, where parents kill their children, right? There's an interest in that. We have missing children. There's an interest in that. The religion aspect mixed with children has got people crazy, just totally nuts that these 2 are justifying their actions. And by the way, just right out of the gate, Chad and Lori haven't said anything, right?
No.
We don't have a defense on them, but we do know Lori lied to the police when they first went to look for JJ. So anyway, backing up, we don't really know what the defense is, but that's what's making people crazy. It's fascinating. And let's be real, you know, true crime fans, which I totally am, you know, want to be intrigued, I don't want to use the word entertained because that's not right, but you dig into it. And this has so many fascinating parts to it and unbelievable and are you kidding me parts to it that people can't get enough.
And I've never seen so many dead bodies compiled with one. It's like Rubber Durst, but worse. It's like Rubber Durst.
I'm grateful I never met these 2, and I live in proximity to where I probably could have, because if you don't know these 2 people, you could have been declared a zombie at any time and be dead right now.
Well, I think the best thing to do, because again, what we're doing here, we wanted to do this. There's been some major updates, but this is such a complicated case. We're going to break it down from the beginning to now. We're not going to go through every single detail, but obviously if you have any questions, if you have questions about the details, you know, ask us. We're going to go through a basic timeline of where this started and where we are now. I think that's the best place to start because this really.
So hold your questions for a minute so we don't lose them in the chats until we say throw us your questions, because we do want to just kind of back up and get everybody back on track on where we are in this case.
I already see some amazing questions, and I'm taking a note of them. All right, so let's just do a quick timeline of where this is. So Chad Daybell married Tammy in 1990. He's an author. They got married in Utah, and then they moved to Idaho. Lori Vallow had multiple marriages even before she became Vallow, and this includes Joseph Ryan, and this is the man that she had her daughter with, Tylee Ryan. Now, Cathy, if you want to briefly say all the people she was married to before she got Joseph.
Unfortunately, it's all right here. Chad Daybell's her 5th husband.
Right.
She was married at age 19 from a high school sweetheart. No kids came of that. The marriage was very brief. That guy was gone. A couple years later, she married another man, and that's who she had Colby with. And that man's name was William LaGoya. And that's where Colby came from. Again, she was only married to him a couple years and divorced. Then she married Joseph Ryan, who adopted Colby, which is why Colby's name is Colby Ryan. And they had Tylee together. And then a couple years after Tylee is born, they get divorced.
And that's a bad divorce, right? That is a really, really bad one.
Way after the divorce is final. There's a custody dispute that goes on and on and on. And fortunately and unfortunately, I read all 1,800 pages of their custody filings. And it was nasty, and really not nasty on Joseph's part, really nasty on Lori's part. And I can say that because experts have found that her allegations weren't true. She accused Joseph of sexually abusing Colby and Tylee. And it went through the courts, and she didn't want him to see Tylee, and on and on and on. And he was like, I will take a lie detector test. They got guardian ad litems appointed for Tylee. Those people had him take a psychosexual evaluation. He was more than willing to do that. That guardian ad litems wrote up their whole report and gave it to the judge, saying they believe the mom is coaching the child. So that's why I say Lori was likely making up allegations against Joseph. She seems to be manipulative, very manipulative person throughout her life. They were married in Texas. So she moves from Texas to Arizona with Tylee and Colby, and the fight continues.
And he moved there.
And Joseph just wants to see Tylee. He just wants to be a part of his daughter's life. So he finally moves to Arizona in the middle of just a nightmare. And she still doesn't want him to see her. And he ends up dying in Arizona.
Yeah, so he dies in we talk about the deaths. Everybody keep a calculator here. Joseph Ryan's the first one. April 2018. They say it's a heart attack. However, right now it's still being investigated. They're still looking at evidence. And I know there's like some sort of recording out there of Lori where she might have been justifying murders. And as you said, she's talked really bad about Joseph Ryan, said he's a rapist. As of right now, there's been no charges filed against her with respect to Joseph Ryan, although, again, such a weird death. He just dies of a heart attack. We'll put him off to the side. Let's talk about Charles Vallow. So after Joseph Ryan, in 2006, Lori Vallow, she marries Charles Vallow. They adopt Joshua J.J. Vallow. And they're living in Arizona. As you said, Joseph follows. He dies. And then at some point in 2018, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, they meet. They do this podcast together. It's like a religiously motivated podcast. Am I right? Is that how they officially met?
So that's not how they met. So close. Back up a little bit. Lori is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that everybody knows as Mormons. Okay. And that was part of her complaint about Joseph Ryan, that he wasn't being a good Mormon, and that, when she married him, he was one way, and then he really wasn't that way. So she moves and she meets Charles, and Charles converts for her. Charles Vallow's not a Mormon. He converts, okay? Chad Daybell, guy she's never met, grown up and lived in Utah his whole life, is also a Mormon. And he's big into prepping. And what I want to say, right out the gate, I'm a Mormon. I'm not weird. I'm not a member of a cult. But that's why I have a lot of insight to how these two went completely off the rails. So we're really, all of our lives, we are taught to have food storage, be prepared, not just for like the end of times, which really isn't talked about a whole lot, to prepare for that, but to be prepared for natural disasters. Hello, COVID. The big joke with Jesse and I is COVID hit, and I'm like, I got all kinds of Clorox wipes and toilet paper. What do you need? Because and I did send them to you. Unemployment. To prepare for any of those things, you should have so much storage in your house. Okay, so some people go further and further, like prepping for really a disaster or really the end of times. And you need to have these tents and these water barrels and these filtration systems, solar cooking. So they have conferences, and this particular one was called Preparing a People. And it wasn't, the church didn't put it on, but it was a lot of members of the Mormon church would kind of hold these in just conference centers or whatever. And they'd have all these people showing you how to cook by solar power, so whatever. But Chad Daybell would participate in these conferences because when he was a teenager in high school, he almost drowned on vacation. He claims that he died and saw the other side and came back. And from that point on, he talks about these near-death experiences, and he ends up writing books and blah, blah, blah. 'blah. So fast forward, October of 2018 in St. George, Utah, Chad Daybell, 2 years before he died, Chad Daybell, 2 years before he died, Chad Daybell there's a conference preparing the people, and he's a speaker talking about his books he's done, talking about the afterlife, that kind of thing. Lori and Melanie Gibb drive from Arizona to St. George because Melanie Gibb was kind of involved in these preppers things. And that's the first time Lori and Chad meet. And the interesting part of that is, and they're both married to their prospective spouses, but after Chad talks, Melanie introduces Chad and Lori, and Chad says, "You and I have been married in several lifetimes before." Literally, first meeting.
What a line, guys.
I mean, that's going to hook me, right? Really?
Hopefully not from Chad Daybell, because they're like the worst combination. We're not even there yet.
No.
This is all 2018.
So they're still sort of normal. Not really, but sort of normal.
Remember, okay, so remember, Joseph Ryan died. Very weird, 2018. Okay, you put him off the side.
Chad.
Yeah, and then 2019 hits, okay? And 2019 is when things get really nuts. At some point, Charles Vallow and Lori Vallow are having real problems. And there's this video that comes out. We talked about it on Law&Crime, where Charles Vallow comes home, and I believe he was locked out of his house from Lori, and he's asking the police to commit Lori to a mental institution.
Okay, so back up, because there's a reason Lori and Charles are having problems. They had a great marriage by all accounts. By anybody that knew them, they had a great marriage. She meets Chad in October 2018, and that's when it starts going downhill. Chad ends up coming, and Melanie and Gibb and Chad and Lori and few others, they gather at Lori's house once, and they talk about the end of times. They talk about scripture. They go over all these things. Well, Chad's telling them, "I've seen the other side." Chad believes that there's a portal basically open to heaven, that he can talk to God. And he's saying, now, I will say that as a Mormon, we're Christians, and we do believe there's an afterlife when we die, and we do believe that that I wouldn't say we believe in ghosts or whatever, but that maybe the other side is aware of us here on Earth, not living with us and visiting us or whatever. So he takes that further and says that's been left open, and I can see the other side. So I'm trying to explain how these beliefs start happening.
But didn't Lori accuse Charles of infidelity at some point?
After she meets Chad.
Do you believe it?
No.
So you think Charles caught her fooling around or being with?
I don't think Charles knew yet. This is what we know. What we know is Chad starts slowly indoctrinating her and others like Melanie Gibb by saying, because he has a direct line to God, he's been given special powers. And part of those powers is to be able to see evil and good in people. And he calls them light and dark. And everyone has so many light factor numbers, and everybody has so many dark factor numbers. And as the second coming is getting closer and Christ is coming again, people are starting to get more wicked. And he's been called to help usher in that second coming, to help get rid of the wicked people. He doesn't say die or whatever, and prepare people to gather in Rexburg, Idaho, which, by the way, I don't know where that comes from, but that's where he believes the second coming of Christ is happening. So this is the talk. And so he says to Lori, "I've seen Charles, and he has X amount of dark, and he's turning." Okay. And Lori buys it. And so then Lori starts going, "You're no good. You're cheating on me." We don't really know what's happening. We don't know if Lori and Chad are actually sexually together at this point or whatever, but something's starting to happen. And then Chad tells her he's going to die, because people that are possessed with too many dark points, their spirit gets pushed out, and it just has to wait in limbo while evil inhabits their bodies. This is all their belief. And that the only way for that spirit, the good spirit, to continue on to do something, I don't know what, the body has to die. Okay. But Chad is teaching it like that's going to be a natural thing. Like God's going to make that happen. Like we're not going to kill it. So he said, so Charles Vallow was going on a business trip to Texas, and he told Lori that he was going to die in a car accident. And he flies back. And he flies back to the airport in Arizona, and his truck is gone, and he has to take a taxi to his house, and the locks are changed on his house, and that's the body cam footage we see.
She, in other words, she thought he was going to be dead.
But then why change your locks?
Good point. Okay, yeah. So let's keep all this in mind. There's these religious beliefs, they're having problems, divorcing, all this. Now, okay, July 11th, 2019. Lori's brother, Alex Cox, huge figure in this case, he shoots and kills Charles Vallow. And at the time, it is determined, or it's at least believed, that it's self-defense. I don't want to go further there. Just know at this point, Alex Cox shoots and kills Charles Vallow.
And they are separated. Lori and Charles separated twice. They got back together all during this, even after she's crazy, whatever, they got back together. And then they're separated. And he shows up that morning to pick up JJ to give him a ride to school, and he ends up dead.
Okay, so he ends up dead. Now, in the same year, Lori, Tylee, JJ, Alex, and Lori's niece, Melanie, they moved to Rexburg, Idaho.
2 months later.
Right, that's where Chad is. You fast forward to October 2019. Tammy Daybell, remember, married to Chad Daybell, suddenly dies. Okay, so now she's death number 3. At first, the death seems to be from natural causes. It's suspicious. Authorities are looking into this.
No, they didn't. They didn't care. They were like, she died in her sleep. Chad refused an autopsy. You can do that in Idaho. She was buried in Utah. Done.
Well, further on, they look into it.
2 months later.
Right. Yeah. And we know that, and I'm going to get into this in a second, but a little bit later, but this, we learned that Chad increased the life insurance policy. The authorities decide to exhume her body. That's all I want everybody to know right now. So she dies. It looks like it's kind of suspicious circumstances from our point of view, just mysterious, just dies in her sleep. That's all we know. Okay. Then it's only weeks after Tammy's death that Chad marries Lori in Hawaii, right? In November. Weeks, right, Cathy?
But nobody knows that, right? And also no one knows the kids are missing.
Yeah.
So if you want to really go off a timeline, she dies and then that's it. And then in November, they get a welfare check for JJ.
Yeah, because in November, that's when people start realizing they haven't seen JJ and Tylee. They're officially declared missing in December 2019. And there's some weird things here, right? So September 8th was the last time anyone saw Tylee. Lori actually unenrolled him in school in September and says that she's going to
JJ. So Tylee, September 8th, and Lori's told people that she's only 16, that she graduated early and she entered BYU, Idaho, which is right there in Rexburg, and she's going to school. That's what she told Melanie Gibb, at least. So yeah. September 8th is the last official sighting or anyone talking to Tylee.
And then you mentioned the welfare check, right? So the kids, what's going on with them? There's this welfare check in November 2019. And Lori said that the kids were in Arizona when that wasn't true, right? And then she also—
Just JJ.
Yeah, and then she also said that her children went to stay with somebody else, which wasn't true as well, right?
So Kay Woodcock is JJ's biological grandma and Charles Vallow's sister. So we do need to back up a little bit. We said Lori and Charles adopted JJ. He's actually his sister's grandchild, and those parents couldn't raise him or something. And Kay and Larry Woodcock are older, and JJ's autistic, and Lori and Chad adopt him, okay? So Kay Woodcock says they move, Charles gets killed, so she already, and then her and Lori have a falling out because we can get into that later, but Lori went to collect Charles Vallow's life insurance, and months before he had put Kay Woodcock as the beneficiary. So they've had words, and now she can't talk to JJ. She used to be able to get him on the phone or the iPad. Now Lori's not answering. She's saying he's not around. So she's the one that calls the police in November and says, will you do a welfare check on JJ? Police just show up, Rexburg police. They don't know who Lori Vallow is. They don't know who Chad Daybell. They don't know anything. Nothing's ever been said. Just Lori answers. And we have some body cam footage of that you can see on Law&Crime's YouTube page. And she says, JJ's in Arizona with my friend Melanie Gibb, visiting my friend Melanie Gibb. And they're like, okay, what's her information? And they leave. And Melanie Gibb has since testified that Chad and Lori both call Melanie 2 different times and say, JJ's with you. You got to tell the police JJ's with you. And she doesn't tell them that, but she doesn't really tell them anything. I think she doesn't even answer for a while.
I think Melanie Gibb is
Don't get me started on Melanie Gibb. I could talk about Melanie Gibb
her later because I think she plays a pivotal role in the charges. That's my opinion. But okay, so now again we have Joseph Ryan dead, we have Charles Vallow dead, we have Tammy Daybell dead. The kids are missing. Okay, now what we won't know yet, but what we know now is that when the kids went missing, Lori had rented this storage unit, and there's a video that shows her and a man who we believe to be Alex Cox, and then her, I think, with also
Chad, yeah.
And they're putting things in there. We would later learn that they were actually the kids' stuff in that storage unit, right, Cathy?
Yeah, photo albums, all their baby pictures, bicycles, tricycles. Yeah.
And by the way, they're not saying anything about where the kids are. They're not giving anybody an indication. The kids are declared missing, again, in December officially.
Well, so wait a minute. 24 hours later, after the welfare check, the Rexburg police talk to the Gilbert, Arizona police, where Melanie's supposed to be. They figure out, wait, what? They go back, gonzo. Yep. Chad and Lori are gone. The townhouse is cleaned out, and now we know they went to Hawaii. But they'd been to Hawaii prior to that and gotten married 2.5 weeks after Tammy's death. Come back to Rexburg. Now we have a welfare check. They take off to Hawaii again.
Okay, so the kids are missing. Remember the deaths. We got Joseph Ryan. We got Charles Vallow, Tammy Daybell. Let's add one. Alex Cox. Okay, so Alex Cox, again, this is Lori Vallow's brother. He dies in December. And what does he die from? The autopsy says blood clots. Blood clots. Okay, so he dies from a blood clot. Again, think about how many deaths we're dealing with right now and the missing kids. Now, Lori and Chad, again, aren't really helpful with the search of the kids. Lori and Chad are in Hawaii. And then police in Hawaii serve Lori with a notice that she has to produce the kids, and she fails to miss the January 30th, 2020 deadline.
She has to produce them in Idaho, and she just ignores that.
She ignores it. Then Lori is arrested the next month in February. There was a warrant out for her in Idaho. And she's charged with a few different things, but everything from deserting the kids, resisting officers, solicitation, contempt of court. And she's actually extradited from Hawaii back to Idaho. Again, early 2020. Now, for the next 4 months, okay, and again, Cathy and I were talking about this case. We're wondering what's going to happen next. Do we know anything about the kids? We're in the dark. We don't hear anything for the next 4 months.
3 months. April, May, June.
Okay. And then, by the way, we have to mention that while Lori's in jail, Chad's visiting her. Chad is
in Idaho. Right? Every single day. I've gotten word from somebody who knows that Chad went to the jail every single day. And when the pandemic hit shortly after, then they either video chatted or were on the phone every single day until what happens in June.
Okay, and you were in the middle of the pandemic, covering all these stories. June 2020 hits. There is a search warrant on Chad Daybell's home. And Cathy, I don't remember where we were when we got this news. They finally discover the remains of Tylee and JJ on Chad Daybell's home.
I got a message that said there's a backhoe in Chad Daybell's yard. And I live 3.5 hours away. And I just said, goodbye. I stopped work and got in the car and drove. But by the time I got there, they already dug up the remains of the 2 kids.
Yeah, and we learned details. We learned that Alex Cox, based on phone data, was on that property. He was on that property where Tylee's remains were found. We also
on September 9th.
Yep.
And then on September 23rd, the day after the last 2 known sightings of the kids.
Yeah, and apparently Chad had texted Tammy, who was, again, this is so crazy because she was alive at the time. He had texted her something that, I just killed a raccoon and buried it. What a convenient text to send to your wife.
More than that, had an eventful day today. I killed a raccoon. Now, remember, they're in Idaho, and it's kind of farm, and they have a lot of land. Killed a raccoon, had to shoot him. Okay, does that mean that we need to somehow talk about there might be somebody who might have heard a gunshot? We don't know. Had to shoot him, and now we have an extra animal in our pet cemetery because in their backyard they had some dogs and cats. Okay, they'd lived there for a long, long time. And then he says, and I burned all the extra debris and limbs. Now we've accounted for probably a large fire on that day.
Yep. And then he's charged. Chad is charged with these kinds of evidence destruction counts, conspiracy to destroy, alter, conceal evidence, and Lori too. So they're both charged with basically evidence destruction charges. And I remember at the time, Cathy, we're looking at this and we're both shocked that at the time, Lori and Chad weren't charged with murder. Remember we were saying, why was that the case? They're not charged with murder. The remains were found.
They dig up Tylee's remains at the pet cemetery location. She has been dismembered, at least below the knees, and burned. Her bones are charred. Okay, so then off a little ways, I don't know, 50 yards, not even 50 yards, they dig up JJ. Now JJ is wrapped. This is just pretty horrific, but he is wrapped all in a garbage bag, and then over his head is a second bag that's tied really tight, duct tape on, I think, his wrists. and ankles. We don't know if JJ was suffocated. They're not talking about cause of death for either kid, so we don't know. We don't know how they died. So they dig up children that have obviously been murdered and no murder charges, just concealing evidence, maximum of 5 years when we find, if we ever get the trial on those charges.
And we're thinking, you know, maybe is Alex Cox the killer? They had nothing to do with it. Maybe they just helped dispose of the evidence. We're speculating. We're speculating for months and months and months. Why are they not charged with murder? Why are they not charged with murder? I want to skip, just for purposes of this timeline, this real quick recap, skipping over a lot of the legal maneuvering back and forth. But if you fast forward now, because we're talking about what the latest developments, you fast forward to May 2021, Lori and Chad are both indicted on first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the deaths of not only Tylee and JJ, but Tammy Daybell, which was just huge. We learned that her autopsy had been completed. We don't know the details of that death yet. And then again, just for purposes of the timeline, only 2 weeks ago, Lori Vallow was indicted for conspiracy to commit murder for the killing of Charles Vallow in Arizona. And a lot of details have been revealed there. We have these two big updates about them being charged here. And then the big one that happened, also is that Chad is not charged in Charles's death. The quote, there's no reasonable likelihood of conviction. I think where we should start there. That is the basic timeline of everything that's happened. Oh, and Lori Vallow Daybell, by the way, has been deemed incompetent to stand trial. Literally a mental evaluation. By law, she has to spend 90 days being rehabilitated. If after 90 days she's not rehabilitated, they're going to ask for another 180 days of treatment. Her lawyer, Mark Means, is like totally involved, wants to be involved in her treatment plan. But it looks like there's a possibility that Chad Daybell may go to trial before Lori Vallow. Now, I want to start, I think the best place to start is with the update with Charles Vallow, because there's so many details, Cathy, right, that have been revealed about why now, right? Why now was Lori charged in connection with his death?
First of all, people are very angry about this because had she been charged right away and Alex Cox, we might have a lot of people still alive, or at least a couple.
Yeah.
So now what Jesse explained earlier is that Alex Cox claims that when Charles Vallow arrives that morning in 2019 to pick up JJ, Alex Cox tells police that there was a fight and that he was getting violent and he had a baseball bat. And so he had to grab his gun. He said Tylee went and grabbed the gun for him out of the bedroom and he had to shoot Charles Vallow in self-defense. That was his story. We have body cam footage that shows him talking to the police. And he's like, he hit me on the back of the head with a bat. And, he keeps doing this. So that investigation must have just been going and going and going, right? And in the meantime, Lori's allowed just to leave and go to Idaho and all that. So Alex Cox dies, but this is something people need to keep in mind. If you don't know this case, the theory is Alex Cox is pretty much the hitman for this Doomsday couple because he kills Charles Vallow. They believe he killed Tylee and JJ, and they believe he tried to kill Tammy Daybell in the weeks before she died in her sleep. So now they believe Chad finally did the deed, but they believe Alex Cox took a shot at her a couple weeks before that. Also, he took a shot at Lori's niece's husband in Arizona. His Jeep was what was seen driving away after a shot through a windshield to Brandon Bordeaux. And Chad had told Lori's niece that Brandon was now a zombie. So Lori's niece had to get divorced from Brandon. So Alex is sort of carrying out all these things. And then he just dies.
And he just dies. And I want to
age 40 or whatever.
There was a question that actually popped up and put it up
yes.
here quick. So Manya List says, how do we get Lori competent? That's my only question.
Send me there. I'll get her competent. Send me to the hospital.
That's the first one I wanted to throw up there. Again, by law, it's very low standard to be. Do you hear that playback? By the way, I don't know if the ringing. I hear this ringing.
I'm not hearing anything.
Anyway, it's very low standard. All she has to do is to be able to understand the charges and communicate with her attorney about the case. If she can't do that, she's not competent. And what's so interesting, in Idaho, there's no insanity defense. There's no insanity defense for her. This is her best way to avoid trial. And I'm not saying she's faking it because I think she might actually be insane. She might actually be crazy, but that's the standard. And they're going to keep reviewing until she gets to that point. I want to ask you one quick question, Cathy. When Chad Daybell was indicted on these murder charges, you remember his expression during that court appearance? Some of the people were saying he was
having a good time.
I
found out a screenshot of him.
Yeah, does he try to work the incompetent angle? You think that's what?
You know what? I don't think Chad's going to. I don't think Chad. I mean, we really need to. I know that we've already been on 30 minutes, but we've got to take some time to dig into their beliefs and their belief system, because that is why everything's happening. For real or not, that is pretty much why they say people are dying. And when I say they say, the best friend, Melanie Gibb, has given us the most information about what these people believe.
And we learned all these new details in the probable cause statement for Charles Vallow. Cathy, if you want to go through with that, the idea is there was so much in there that people, and I will say Alex Cox's widow specifically, kept encouraging Lori that she has these superpowers, and that Chad was encouraging her that she's special in this way. If you could speak about it, because that religious motivation is what kind of led authorities to the belief that she planned the killing of Charles Vallow.
Okay, so I touched a little bit on the belief system. Now, the reason we know about the belief system is Melanie Gibb, but also if we go back to Lori's niece's husband that they try to kill, allegedly, in divorce papers, he's trying to get custody of the kids. The new husband, you guys, it's confusing, but anyway, in custody papers, we see an outline of what they believe. And then Melanie Gibb gets on the stand and testifies. So what they believe, now, some people would say they don't really believe that, that's up for debate, but they believe that they have a mission. This is their job, to help, usher in the second coming. We've got to get rid of the wicked and the evil, and these people are turning, and they use the term zombies, which, come on, and that they need to, those host bodies have to be get rid of. But Melanie Gibb understood it to be, because Melanie Gibb bought into all this, by the way, and she understood it to mean, but they thought that, God was these people were going to die in natural ways, but it was, this was their destiny. This is what was meant to happen. Except then they just started getting killed off. So their beliefs are that Chad and Lori have been married in, I want to say 25 different lives. And there's so much, you guys, that go out of Mormon doctrine. It's not even funny. First of all, Mormons don't believe that you live this life over and over again. Chad and Lori believe that you can live this life here on earth as many times until you're happy with your progression, which I don't know where that belief comes from. And so they've been married in several lifetimes before. Lori really, I think Lori really bought into this. I think Lori really believed this, and was going for it. And now we're hearing that Alex Cox absolutely believed everything that was being taught to him. So their belief, you guys, and it gets weirder. So Zulema is Alex.
Before we get to Zulema, let me ask you this. We got a question.
Yeah.
So Tiffany Compton, wonder what they thought when the world didn't end last July. Great point.
I can tell you. I'll tell you exactly what they thought. So first of all, Chad predicted, or maybe Lori, because Melanie Gibb wasn't clear about that. Lori said July of 2020, that was when the second coming was happening. And that's when I guess everything is destroyed. I don't know. And then it didn't happen. They were both in jail. So I'm sure they both believed, because they weren't there to help what was supposed to happen, that, God had to put that off. I don't know. That this is what happens with these people, right? How many times have we had predictions of the end of the world, and when it doesn't happen, it's always because, the people aren't ready for it yet, and whatever. Zulema is a person that Alex Cox was only married to her for a couple of months, okay? But she knows Chad and Lori. Her name's Zulema. She claims to be able to control water and fire, I think. She can control the elements, so that's cool. And they actually, her and Alex Cox get married. The belief is, they get married, and these two are going to team up because they need to also help usher in. So she says she can control things, and that there are text messages now that's come out from the Charles Vallow probable cause statement that show they say unnamed person. Do they say Alex Cox widow, or do they say?
I don't recall, but they don't name her, but we all know it's Zulema.
We all know it's Zulema and Lori, and they're texting about Charles Vallow's upcoming demise. Okay. I have it right here, but
and right, he wanted to have an intervention. Charles Vallow wanted to have an
Charles Vallow gets a hold of Lori's other brother, presumably a sane brother, and says, we need to have an intervention. Your sister has gone crazy. I love her. I want to stay married, but she has gone nuts. We need to have an intervention. These guys get wind of it. Lori's told about it. And the intervention was supposed to happen the day after Charles Vallow was killed.
And by the way, I just want to make everybody clear, it's not just the religious connections and these text messages that really show that they planned this out for Charles Vallow, but let's not forget, Alex Cox calls 911 43 minutes after the shooting, okay? And he says on the phone, oh, it just happened, and that wasn't the case. So he waits 43 minutes. It's clear from when they look at the body that he didn't provide any kind of life-saving measures whatsoever. And there was this kind of bullet fragment that showed he shot him again when he was on the floor. So a lot of times in these cases, people are like, oh, why did it take so long to charge her? Well, sometimes this evidence takes a while to process. And obviously,
but look, toxicology reports take a long time.
Yeah.
Ballistics reports, from my limited experience with all the trials, I don't feel like that would take as many months as it's taken to charge her. And maybe it would take longer than, because that happened in July and Alex Cox is dead by December. So maybe it would take longer than 5 months, but I still feel like that part, I'm really annoyed with that whole investigation down there. Because I feel like as soon as they could see that his story wasn't true, like what, as far as we know, they never went back and questioned him up in Rexburg or anything before his death.
So let me ask you a real quick question, and then I want to go to another question here. Obviously, with Alex Cox out of the way, if you're Lori Vallow, you're Chad Daybell, that's a great thing. I mean, for her to lose her brother, I'm not even going to get into that, but the point is.
Oh, he's in a better place. That was meant to happen.
Do you think they killed him? I mean, let's talk about it. Do you think they killed him? We don't even know how they killed Tammy Daybell. We don't even know how they killed her.
Right.
He dies from a blood clot. It just seems at that point too convenient for him to die at that.
So, this is what we know about Alex Cox's death, because we know some things that led up to it right before, and he had been sick and not feeling well that week. The day of, a person on the phone, which is all the documents will tell us, gave him a blessing. Well, I'm 90% sure that was Chad Daybell.
Right.
Gave him a blessing, and then he's dead. And somebody unnamed called Zulema and said, Alex isn't doing well, you should get home and check on him. I also think that was Chad. Could have been Lori, but it's also unnamed, redacted in the. And Zulema gets home and he's dead. Okay, so everyone, all of us thought, oh, this is going to come out. It was foul play, 100%. Well, the autopsy shows it's not foul play. So the thing out there is, did he commit suicide? Was it too much for him? Or did someone actually poison him? Except that what we know was happening in those moments, I don't think they needed to off him at that moment. So I know this is really bad. I'm talking about this, but
no, I mean
I don't think that they needed to kill him in that moment. And so I don't know. I don't know what to think about Ellen.
We would never have thought of it otherwise, but given so many deaths, you're wondering, okay, what?
And knowing he was the family hitman, that's what was so weird. It's like, and he just dies. But knowing what we know that was surrounding at that time, it doesn't feel like they would need to get rid of him at that time. But I really don't know.
This question.
Oh, this is my favorite question.
This is the favorite question. We've asked this for a while.
Yeah.
This is from Debs June. She's actually asking something that a lot of people have been asking on this chat. Hi, Cathy and Jesse. Do you guys think they will eventually flip on each other? So let me just say first, I think I can speak to Cathy. We always said no. They're joined like this.
They've been married 25 times or whatever the number is. They're still for eternity. Right. They're never flipping.
I don't know. And I'll tell you why I say I don't know. I'll tell you why I say it. This is a very different situation. So she's now incompetent. They're not talking to each other. At least, I don't think there's any communications being had back and forth. If he might have to go to trial before her, and I'm always curious, are they just going to put everything on Alex Cox? Are they going to say they had nothing to do with this? Or is he going to say, you know what? it was all Lori. I mean, she hasn't had a great track record with being, staying with men and being loyal to men. And I just feel, I don't want to say it's impossible. There's a chance they might turn.
Okay, so Deb's June. I've said this all, Jesse, we used to report on this a lot. Throughout the pandemic, we didn't have a lot of trials, right? So Jesse would do a show every day, and I would come on a lot, and we'd talk about this. And I always said, because of what I know about their beliefs, I always said, they're never going to flip. It's never going to happen, because they firmly believe they're in it for the long haul, for the afterlife. So flipping is not what they should be doing, right? However, the no contact at all between the two of them since June of 2020, I think it's taken a toll on Lori. And people think she's faking this incompetent. I think she's probably not. I think she's starting to lose it, because now she's been in her own head since June of 2020 without any insight from Chad. And everyone's deserted her pretty much. She has nobody. And you have to sit there 24 hours a day. I think she's like, what have I done? Maybe. Or, God, why have you forsaken me, right? Like, I'm doing your bidding, but something's happened. I don't think she was crazy. She wasn't, look, you're never convinced me she was legally insane at the time all this went down.
Well, what about this? Look, from Carol Tanner Pimpkin. She says, Lori scammed her competencies hearing before. Does anyone remember this? I think Carol's referring to what happened in Arizona when they did that evaluation.
But that evaluation, you guys, so let's just briefly, for people that don't know, when Charles comes back from Texas, his truck is gone, the locks are changed, he calls the cops, he's like, hello, man, and then he asks for a mental evaluation. In Arizona, I don't know if you have to be like a spouse or whatever, but you can ask for someone to have that done. So they asked Lori to come down on her own. Her and Tylee and Melanie Gibb go to the police station. They're talking. They said, you need to go for this evaluation. She's like, do I have to do that? He's like, yeah, you do need to do that. And so by the next morning, she's back and everything's normal. What happened in that evaluation? It wasn't days. It was overnight. And so I don't think she wasn't feigning.
If you watch the video of her, remember her in the police? She was fine. Like
normal, totally normal.
Somebody who was disgruntled over her husband. She goes, this guy again,
But what I'm saying is, I don't think she was faking, because I think she was competent. I think she was competent. There wasn't anything to find her incompetent. I think now there might be a little different. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she shouldn't be held legally responsible. That's a totally different burden to meet than she's losing it. And that's what I think it is. I think she's losing it.
So a couple things. One, I apologize to everybody about this feedback issue. I do hear it too, this kind of ringing.
You guys are hearing it?
Some people hear it, some people don't. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we could try to get it fixed by somebody on the other end. But look, this is interesting. So Caroline Nowak says, do you think Lori shot Charles first and then Alex finished him off? Now, my understanding is, Cathy, is Lori wasn't there when the actual gunshot. Wasn't she escorting the kids out of the house? Because that's according to the kids, right? They didn't see the actual gunshot. They heard a gunshot. I think it was all Alex Cox.
And she left, and she went to McDonald's and got some food for JJ, and she went to Walgreens and she bought flip-flops for her and Tylee, all while she knows that Charles lying dead. And there's a phone call between Alex and Lori during that time. Remember, there was 43 minutes before he called 911. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't think Lori did it. I don't think Lori did any of this. I think she wouldn't get her hands dirty like that. I don't think Lori has physically killed anybody herself.
Well, right. So she's not even charged with actual first-degree murder with respect to Tammy Daybell. She's not. Conspiracy. Yeah.
Yep.
Again,
no, because Tammy died in the middle of her sleep, and Lori's never been at their house, right? They're like, Tammy and Chad are married. By the way, married almost 30 years. They had 5 kids. Their youngest was like 19. So they have his adult kids. They have some grandkids when this whole Chad and Lori thing starts happening.
And then let's go to this one. Again, I'm taking questions. We got Kelly Fustos, and Gibbs admitted she knew Daybell years before she introduced Lori and Chad. Could Gibbs be involved to a deeper degree? Now, we mentioned before that, so Melanie Gibbs does this interview with East Idaho News. She gives her whole explanation of what she thinks happened to the kids. This before we knew. She talks about the relationship. I think, and Cathy, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think she holds a lot more cards. I think it's her cooperation that helped with the charges, the murder charges with respect to the kids and Tammy. I really do think that she's a part of this prosecution more than we know.
Look, I don't think Melanie Gibb is involved in any murders, okay? I think Melanie Gibb knows more than any of us know that she has had to say on the stand. She knows that Chad and Lori were both asking her to lie about JJ, and she didn't come clean to the cop till like a month later. It wasn't right away. There's something up with Melanie Gibb and her loyalty to Chad and Lori and her belief system. She claims in an interview with East Idaho News' Nate Eaton that once they started talking zombies and stuff, she was like, okay, now you've lost me. We know that's not true. We know that's not true because she continued to have a very close relationship. Even up to the weekend we know JJ was killed now, she was in Rexburg, and her and Lori did a podcast that night. And that morning, Lori's telling her JJ's turned into a zombie. Like, she's telling all this on the stand. She's not running for the hills yet. So there's something with Melanie Gibb that I'm like, what is wrong with you? And could you have saved these kids' lives?
Well, here's the problem. Mark Means, who's representing Lori Vallow, he recently asked the court to hold her in contempt because he's asked of her, he subpoenaed her for all of these communications, like a whole big spectrum of communications that she's made with all these different people. And I can't tell what he's looking at there. What is he trying to get? I can't. There's not a clear understanding for me. She's ignored the subpoena, right? And now he's asking for the court to get involved. Not sure where they're going to go with that because really I feel that his subpoena was just way too broad.
Yeah, he also wants any communication she's had with Rob Wood, the prosecutor.
Yeah, good luck. But the point is, like, what does he expect? Like, what does he think her role is? You think she's a killer?
Yeah, who knows, right? I mean, I guess if you're the defense attorney, you're going, and I know a little bit about Mark Means, but I think that if you're the defense attorney, you're going to go for whatever you can get, right? You have to. They want every single piece of information so they know what they're dealing with, and they do believe. I think he believes Melanie Gibb is not all innocent as she proclaims. Now, I don't know. You can pin a murder on her. I don't know exactly where he's going. I don't know if anybody in the chat has any ideas on where Mark Means might be going with it. Mark Means is a whole nother ball game for me because he's not a criminal defense attorney. He's in family law and injury, right? He's a 5-hour drive from Rexburg. Why are they hiring this guy? Back when they had money, they still had Tammy Daybell's life insurance money when Lori was arrested in Hawaii. They had money to hire an attorney. Why are they hiring a guy that is 5 hours away so they can't have easy access and he doesn't have this experience?
Well, I've also never seen an attorney try to get so actively involved in a client's mental health treatment, which is what he's been trying to do with Lori. There's some connection there.
He filed a motion that he needs to be notified before any medications are given to her, what they're going to be, any kind of that. He has a whole list in this motion. So like he's her person. And I guess she doesn't have anybody else. So I guess an attorney could take that role on or would need to take that role on. And I don't know. I'm not really putting an accusation out there one way or the other about what it is. There's just something about it that doesn't just what I know about how everything works. Like if this all of a sudden happened to me, I'm not hiring a guy that basically lives in another state and it's a 5-hour drive. And that unless that guy is really good, right? And you don't see that from me. Now, I will say he had some family law, and when she was originally arrested, it was because she didn't produce the children. So maybe, but I don't know. And then John Pryor, that represents Chad Daybell, is not his partner, but his law office is in the same building as Mark Means.
And John Pryor just appears to be a much more seasoned professional lawyer in that way. Now, this is an interesting question, okay? So we have it from Gina Hiyotaki. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Do you think that they have enough on Chad? Although bodies in his garden, the raccoon text, do you think they need more than that, right? And look, yes, I think one of the reasons they waited so long to file these charges is because they waited to get more evidence. I think there's a lot that we don't know because this was a grand jury indictment. I will say I believe that there's probably more than just that text. There's probably more text messages. I think they do have corroborating witnesses. I think we still don't even know exactly how those children died, but there is more. And if I was Chad Daybell, I'd be very concerned right now because what we've seen from this case is they take their time. There's cooperation between the different agencies.
But this is why Chad and Lori Lori's already in jail, and then she gets more charges, and Chad gets arrested when the bodies are up. They're each on a $1 million bond, okay, just for the concealed evidence. They couldn't get it. And what I heard, and I think it's reliable, that when that first happened, when Lori was first in March and had $1 million bond before Chad was ever arrested, they had $100,000. They could have come up with a bail, and no bondsman would take her case because she had fled to Hawaii, right? So that now they're both in on $1 million. Their money's gone, and so the prosecutors could take all the time in the world. We're in a pandemic. There's no trials happening. They didn't need to charge any murder charges until they did. So they wanted all their ducks in a row. I think they had everything they needed a long time ago, quite frankly. I don't think anything new and surprising popped up like electronic messages. They had all those records. And so I just think they were just like waiting for the right time. I don't know. Here's the problem. Chad had something like 40 burner phones in his home when they did the first search warrant, which was months. I got a whole box right here. So January of 2021, they issued their first search warrant, and they went into that house, and we can see it's snow on the ground, okay? And they're only in the house, and they take out boxes of stuff, and that's phones, and we think that's computers. Tammy Daybell's phone, they take all that stuff in January, and then it's not till June they're back digging up the yard. Now, one, they had to wait for the snow, but two, they probably got all their information from that January search on the property. To get to know, well, they did, because guess what? They only dug in 2 specific spots on this whole huge yard, because they pinged Alex Cox's phone on September 9th in the Pet Cemetery area for 2.5 hours, you guys. What we now know, what we can deduce, is because I think Chad was involved, right? He shot a raccoon that day, is that they were trying to cut her up and burn her and get rid of her. And it was taking 2.5 hours, and it was taking too long. On September 23rd, they dig up only exactly where Alex Cox's phone pings that day in the yard. They find JJ, who's just wrapped, smothered, quick, and Alex's phone only pings like 23 minutes that day. Mm-hmm. So they kind of know what's happened, but look, Chad's there, and so they probably have his phone pings, right? Yep. And he's there. So there's going to be more that they're going to come out with that says, like, okay, for example, in the Arizona charges, we now know there was talk about getting rid of Charles Vallow, right? Yeah. So there's going to be something like that. There's going to be something like that in the kids and Tammy.
I can just imagine the conversations, these children, I'm not speaking the right language, but they're basically saying how they're not the threats. We have to prove ourselves, things like that. There's going to be stuff. Now, this is interesting. I want to bring another question here. This is from Snuggle Bunny. Do you think Lori's mom and her sister know more than what? I say no. I just don't see it. Call me naive.
I don't think Lori's mom or Summer know anything about anything. Okay.
But Summer was interviewed by Rob Wood.
Well.
Kind of.
Yeah. I think what they were doing is protecting their daughter and sister because they couldn't believe it. I do believe that part. I believe Summer couldn't fathom that Lori was that way. And she's written a whole thing on her Facebook saying all I ever knew her was as a good mom. And I just couldn't, until the kids' bodies were dug up, you couldn't have made me believe it. And that's when she turned. And the mom, you're a mom. And so I don't think they know anything specifically. I don't think they were in on anything. I mean, I could be wrong and that could come out, but I really doubt it.
Yeah. And I don't see it. I just don't see it. Let's see. Let's go to another question here. I saw something. I didn't want to lose it here, but there was a good one going. What's this one? Wait, no, that's not the one. There was a good one going on.
I have one. Let me put this one up first.
Okay. Let's see.
We haven't even talked about teleportation.
Yeah,
we haven't talked about them teleporting.
Teleportation was one of her powers. I have to say, I have to say, what is Chad thinking? What is Chad thinking? Lori might be thinking she's teleporting. She might think she's from another place.
No, but see, here's the thing, you guys. In Arizona, Charles Vallow's still alive. Her and Chad are just starting up their relationship. They are doing some podcasts together about the end of times, whatever. what we know from Melanie is that Lori would go into her closet in her bedroom in Arizona, and Chad would go into, I guess, his closet, I don't know, in Rexburg, and they could teleport to each other.
Yeah, and
I mean, who am I to question that?
What about this one? Was the day the kids were killed a special religious day for Lori and Chad? Well, we don't know actually the exact day they were killed, right? We don't.
Well, we do. Tylee was killed September 8th into the night and buried on the 9th. I mean, all the timeline shows that. And JJ was probably killed September 22nd or 23rd. No, there's no religious holidays in September.
What about this one? This is from Adam Markle. Do you think Lori had Tylee lie about what happened?
This bothers me because Tylee told the police that Charles isn't her dad, remember, that Charles was fighting and had a bat, and Tylee's the one that went and grabbed a gun. I don't know about poor Tylee. She's 16 and she lives with a very messed up mother, and I just don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Here we go. This is for another question. Regina, do you think Lori killed Alex the same way he killed the kids, poison maybe?
I mean, maybe Tylee was shot because a raccoon was shot that day. We don't really know how, and maybe JJ was just smothered. Tammy likely was poisoned. They still won't release those results, but I don't think Lori wanted to kill Alex. Anything that I know about, and you guys, I know too much about this case. Trust me, I would have been obsessed as many of you are, and have read everything and have watched everything. I think Lori and Alex had this weird, really special bond. I'm not saying weird like incestual weird, but I don't think Lori would have killed Alex. Now, would she have killed him thinking it was his time to go because he was a zombie? I mean, like I said, Lori didn't get her hands dirty in any of this. I don't think so.
All right. Well, this is what kind of, Donna Gwynn says, was Chad hoping to get a lot of followers and become a cult leader? Does he really believe all of this?
We should talk about that.
Because there's been that he's a master manipulator. Did he say whatever he had to say to get Lori, or is this something deeper? Does he really believe this? Because again, at this point, he's competent to stand trial. Doesn't mean he's not insane and crazy, but what do you think?
I mean, here's for what it's worth, right? Everything is just my opinion. I do know a little bit more than the average person about this particular case, but Chad is convinced that he had a near-death experience. He may or may not. I don't know. I don't know what you guys believe about, can you see the other side and people die on the operating table? I don't know. I know that he went on a mission for the church at age 19, as a lot of boys do in the church. And his previous mission companions have spoken up since this case started, I think 2020 or something, and said he would talk about that experience. He would talk about that experience when we were talking to investigators. He was a great missionary. Everyone loved him. He's very charismatic. Then he wrote books about it. He was very Chad was never a popular guy. So this is another thing that I've been told. Somebody that went to high school with Chad says that he wasn't popular at all. But he had this accident and came back, like maybe it was the summer before his senior year. Don't quote me on that. And then he had this story to tell. And so then he had people that were listening to him about this story of his near death. And then he went on his mission and he came back and he met Tammy and got married and he started writing books about it. Then he started writing fiction that sort of incorporated. I think Chad actually believes that happened. And I think he believes that he then got like more revelation, inspiration, whatever, answers to prayers. And I think that snowballed. I think Chad actually did believe what he believed. I think Lori actually did believe what she believed. This is where I have a hard time, though. I have a hard time with the two of them carrying on with an affair while they're still married, and very open about it, because that would be against anything, really, that they should believe in, if they believed in anything. And then is that just more of a lust thing on Chad's part? Because Chad was kind of a dorky guy. If you guys have seen him, he's never going to get Lori in like a real life situation. And so I go back and forth about what I what I think they believe. I mean, they can't believe they can teleport. You guys, they can't teleport. So it's like I have this weird line with them. Like they believe it, they believe this, they believe they're called to do this, they believe they should be doing this, but then they kind of also just kind of do what they want and say what they want. So I don't know.
All right, let's go to Miss Murder. Will Lori have to be brought back to competency in Idaho before she can face any charges in Arizona? Well, it is interesting, right? I don't think they're going to plan to bring her to Arizona until she's deemed competent in Idaho. It just seems like a waste. I mean, I personally think that each court, each jurisdiction has to deem her competent. It's not if you're deemed incompetent in Idaho, you would have to determine the same thing in Arizona. But why, from a practical point of view, if she's deemed incompetent here, wait to see what happens and then move her down.
So I spoke to a criminal defense attorney in Maricopa County, Jason Lamb. Some people might know he was a commentator all through the Jodi Arias trial. He has a very successful practice, and he practices right there in that jurisdiction. And he said Arizona's not going to do anything. She won't be arraigned or anything until Idaho is resolved, not just competent. And for an example is Harvey Weinstein, right? He had to go through all his New York charges. He was indicted in LA. He had to get convicted and sentenced, and now LA wants to extradite him. That's how it's going to be. Idaho has to be resolved before anything happens in Arizona, and it really doesn't have to do with competency, not competency. Like that case just needs to get finished one way or the other, and then they'll pick her up.
All right, let's go to Candace Pride. Do you know if Lori received insurance money after Joseph Ryan died? And do you know if either of her first two husbands are still alive? I wonder what they have to say. You would know this better than me, Cathy.
Okay, so I don't know about life insurance on Joseph Ryan off the top of my head. Tylee got Social Security. So kids get that when a parent dies. My daughter's father died, and so I always got a benefit until she was 18. She was getting that from Tylee. And we also know because part of the charges against Lori is Social Security fraud, and it's for collecting after Charles Vallow dies for JJ, and after Joseph Ryan dies for Tylee, and after the kids are dead, because both of them are under 18, she was still cashing those checks and taking that money. So she was getting money for that. But so with Joseph Ryan, I don't think there's a lot. What we didn't really get into is Charles Vallow. Lori thought there was $1 million policy coming her way, and there are texts talking about life insurance on Charles. And then she goes to call right after he's killed by her brother and finds out she's not the beneficiary. And she has a conversation with Kay Woodcock that says, how could you do this? I have to support all these children, on and on and on. She thought she was going to get Charles Vallow's money.
Yep. And by the way, you talked about the text. So a week after Charles was killed, Lori writes, so I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March, meaning Charles Vallow. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't tell me.
Before we got rid of him.
But I'll still get the $4,000 a month from Social Security.
There you go. $4,000. I got $330. So I'm just saying.
Here's the interesting thing. I've actually seen comments. I can't find it right now where people are saying, is this really about the religious beliefs or is this about the money? Because can't forget that when it comes to the kids and also Tammy Daybell, they were also charged with insurance fraud and this kind of, was it grand theft or grand larceny that they were charged with as well? So I'm curious, do you think it's about the money or do you think it's about the religious beliefs, Cathy?
I'm telling you, it's this weird wavy line in my head. I'm not in their heads. Some of these cases are very clear cut, right? We're like, of course he killed his wife for the life insurance money. I mean, these cases we cover seem pretty obvious. This one isn't as obvious to me. The life insurance money was going to keep them on their journey, their mission, right? That's how I think. I go back and forth, you guys, because I'm also a pessimist when it comes to these people that kill their kids. It's like, I don't know exactly, or it may have switched at some point. And maybe we believe, but then look at us, we're having fun in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was ever intention started out, I need money, so I need to kill people. I don't think that happened. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about this? We have Ruzy85. Has Tammy said, or did Tammy say anything about Chad's craziness and religious beliefs to her parents or friends before dying? Because again, the question is, was she taken out so he could be with Lori, or was she taken out because of some religious motivation?
So what we know is that Tammy found out about Lori. It's not clear how long before she was killed, but she confided in somebody that Chad was having an affair. And we also know from Melanie Gibb that when Lori moved to Rexburg in September, so the month I think she actually moved there in August, but anyway, a month or two before Tammy's death, Chad and Lori would go on the campus of BYU, Idaho, and walk the track and hold hands the whole time. And when I say BYU, Idaho, you guys, Rexburg is a town that is this big with this much population, and BYU, Idaho is like a glorified high school. This isn't huge. And so they were being seen, and Melanie asked Lori, aren't you worried? And Chad allegedly said, no, people will just think I'm with Tammy. But Tammy found out something about that. So about the crazy religious beliefs, this is what I think. There are some parallels, on what they believe and what Mormon doctrine is. Nothing like what we've been talking about. But I think Tammy probably believed he did have a near-death experience. I think Tammy probably believed that really did happen to him. I don't know about the whole zombie thing. And my guess is, what I know, Tammy was just really pretty much just mainstream Mormon, that wouldn't have gone well. But I will tell you this, he has adult children that are supporting him that now know everything. So I guess they believe it. I don't know.
Well, this is a question we've been getting a lot about Chad's kids, Charlie and McGowan. Do you think they were planning on killing Chad's kids and grandkids?
No. Because like I said, he has a lot of support from his kids. I don't know if all 5 support him. This is one thing that's kind of a little sad. So I told you about in the LDS faith, a lot of boys go on missions and go proselyte and just serve people for 2 years. My son's on a mission right now. His youngest son was on a mission in another country. When his mom dies, when he finds out his dad's gotten remarried, when he finds out all this, it's really sad, and he had to come back. And so I don't know what that kid believes, but I do know that Emma lived kitty corner from him. She fully supports her father, and I think Garth does too. I doubt that there was going to be any killing because, see, Lori's kids kind of had to get rid of because they were minors. There's a lot of issues going on with other family members. Chad's kids were all grown, and so I don't think that they were going to get rid of them. Who knows? I don't know.
What about this? Beach Bucket, are they still supporting him after the murder charge for Tammy?
At least the 2 of them were there at his arraignment behind the event.
That's surprising. I wouldn't have expected that. Why do you think that is?
You know what? That's their hero. You know, by all accounts, Chad was a decent guy and a good dad and really a good husband up until the last couple of years. And you know, he held high, I don't want to say high positions in the church, because with our church, you know, you're not paid for anything. Everything's a volunteer position. But you know, he held some, you know, he was well liked and well respected. And so that's your dad. And I don't think they want to believe that he killed their mom. And she did just die in her sleep, right? And so, yeah, at least a couple are still supporting him. Who knows? I don't know. Things get really tricky when you talk about parents and kids and standing by them. I don't know.
We've seen it before. I mean, we've covered things of serial killers where you have you have their children saying,
I mean, they can't come to terms with it in their head because that's not the person they've known their entire life. Yeah. And they didn't even see any signs of that, really. I haven't had anybody say they saw signs that this would go this way, the way that it did.
It's so strange that it seemed like it was getting progressively worse and how it just changes like that.
That's all quick if you think about it. July 2019 is Charles Vallow. He's the first. And everything is said and done by October with Cathy.
Yeah, really quick.
So that's quick, right? As far as deaths go.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. This is real with Robo. A lot of times detectives say that people who kill someone usually try to tell the actual story, but by other means. So is shot a raccoon, shot the young lady.
That's what I think.
Well, yes.
But I don't think they shot Tylee because guess what? This was in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I don't. I think it was just a way for him to get out of, try to make it.
Yeah, why else would he bury something? Why would there be fresh?
Oh, wait. Yeah, there's a raccoon in the back. Just want to let you know. Crazy day
Probably.
out.
That's how he said it, too. Well, it had an exciting day today.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, this is an interesting one. Deb's June. Did they sacrifice them type of thing? We'll see the kids in another time, space, life, and another.
Yeah. So their beliefs, as far as I understand them, from everything we've learned, is that Tylee and JJ were zombies, meaning their bodies were inhabited by evil spirits. like Satan's spirits, okay? And their good spirit is out in limbo, I guess, in the universe somewhere. This is not anything that they would normally believe. And that the only way they could compress, go on and live with God again or whatever, is for their bodies to die. And in Mormon doctrine, we do believe we will see our loved ones again someday. So I think they combined all that to justify these killings. I don't know why the kids had to be killed, except that they're just in the way. I think Lori believed Chad. Chad is the one that is saying who is light and who is dark. Chad is the one doing that, not Lori. He's saying Tylee has turned into a zombie. JJ has turned into a zombie. Charles has turned into a zombie. Tammy's getting ready to turn into a zombie. He's directing it because I guess he communes with God. And so Lori has to agree to have her children killed. And, as psycho as I think Lori's been most of her life, and I've been like reading all her divorce papers and all that, and she is very manipulative. Her whole life, I believe she was very manipulative. There's no indication that she didn't love her kids. Now, you could argue that if you're going to accuse a father of molesting his child and he didn't really do that, how much do you love that kid? But in her warped mind, I think that she really loved her kids. So to convince her to kill her kids, I don't know. I'm a mom.
Well, what was chilling when we see that video back in Arizona of Tylee in the room with Lori and they're talking in the police station, just to see that back and forth is so chilling, knowing what we know now. What did you make of that, the way they were talking?
So you guys, if you search on YouTube, you can find these if you haven't seen them yet. But this is when Charles Vallow wants her mentally evaluated, and she's sitting in the police department. And first of all, Lori's laughing. She was laughing the day Charles was dead too, right on the sidewalk. But and she's like, I'm not crazy, you guys. You see, I'm not crazy. And then she's like, he's been having an affair. He's the one. And Tylee says something, I haven't watched in a long time. Something like, Mom, calm down, or Mom, like she becomes the parent in there. And you do kind of see that because we also see videos of Tylee's relationship with JJ. So she's 16 and he's 7 when they're killed. So prior to that, he's autistic. He's a little bit of a difficult child. She loves him. And there's a video of Lori videotaping them, and Tylee's going, don't you film my baby? And she's holding her, brother, and this is my child. And so you can kind of see how she's had to take on a parent role. And then probably with her mom too, trying to take on more of an adult role.
And again, what's also chilling about it is I remember she was talking about what she wanted to do or go to school. I forgot. And it was just sad. She was talking to the investigator, the police officer about it. This one, and I think I know the answer. Why was Judge Eaton's recused removed from the Daybell case? Eaton said sign the order for Daybell to produce children within 5 days. This was prior to the other criminal charges being filed. My understanding was this because he was a part of the civil custody case of Lori Vallow, right? Wasn't that the issue?
They also go before him for arraignments, right? Weren't they in front of him recently?
I believe so.
I think he's just not the right judge. You know how when you get arrested and you have a first appearance, that's like a bond court, right? A bond judge or whatever. And then, he was handling, but he also was kind of handling her first appearance stuff too. So I don't have the exact answer to that, but I believe that's how it is. It's that your case is then assigned to a judge after your initial appearances.
And he had a right. They had a right to have him recused if it made sense. It was, and I understand that one.
And yes, that also because he was handling a totally different matter. Involving them.
So we have Kai Baby Kitty. Didn't Alex take a call from Chad for his blessing right before Alex died? Alex's job was done, and maybe according to them, this next level was to pass away.
That's what people think. There are people out there that think. We know that he was on a call with someone, some redacted name, and gave him a blessing. We know that in their belief system, only men can give those blessings. So it really has to be Chad. It can't be Lori or Zulema. We don't know of any other men. So, we kind of know some other men, but Chad gave him the blessing. So I will say in Mormon doctrine, we believe that you can get a blessing of healing. It's kind of a faith-based blessing. It doesn't mean that you're miraculously healed. But so it was something like that when he was 6 to give him comfort. Usually the blessing is like to give you comfort and help you get over this time, and kind of like a prayer. And so I think Chad did that, but the timing. But by all accounts, the only person home with Alex is Zulema's adult son, who we now know is, I don't know if he's learning disabled, and I don't want to say that, but there is something about how like he's probably always living with his mom, and he didn't want to call 911, he didn't want to talk to the people, he was just very anxious and nervous. He's the only one that's home. He didn't want to go in and see Alex. They're on the phone with 911, right. And she's going, is he breathing? You need to get CPR. And he's like, I don't want to do that. He soiled his pants. Like he's a little different, I guess. And so he's the only one that was home, and Zulema was at work.
You know about, do you think Zulema, isn't she somehow responsible for the death of Charles Vallow?
Yeah.
So how come?
Where are her charges?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know if she actually intended or planned for that to happen. You know, you can say.
I have those text messages right here because.
Don't you think she's going to play a role in these upcoming cases as a witness?
Yeah, if she doesn't get charged.
I mean, I don't. Even if she, I don't. See, I'm torn. I don't think she actually knew that they were planning on killing her, killing Charles Vallow, but maybe she was just encouraging her and saying, you know, you're a special spiritual being, a religious being, and you can't charge somebody so much for what they say in that context. But if she helped to plan it, you know, she could be charged with that. Okay, this is interesting. Again, from Gina, why partially burn one body and not the other?
Well, so this is my opinion, and I'm just deducing from what we know. Alex's phone pings for 2.5 hours on the property. That's a long time. Chad's trying to cover up that there was a fire by the text to Tammy and that he buried something. We know that she is partially dismembered, and we know that the bones were charred. Okay, so if you want to deduce, they were trying to, I think, get rid of her as much as possible. The only person that we know of that they killed at this point is Charles Vallow, and that was just a gunshot self-defense. So maybe this is I don't know. And we know now that went horribly wrong because they found all her parts, and it was 2.5 hours. 2 weeks later, JJ's buried and he only pings for 22 minutes. So I deduced they knew what a disaster that was, and they were risking getting caught. So that time they just put him in the ground. So that's why I think they were different.
And by the way, I mean, again, with some of the revelations from the Charles Vallow probable cause, the idea of Lori saying, this is the week. This is the week that's going to change everything. Yeah, certainly.
And he changed it. He changed his life insurance before we got rid of him. Hello?
You got to be, wait, those text messages, those writings, it's what really.
And the ones we don't know and haven't seen in this case.
Here's an interesting one. We have from Melva Perunco. Was Lori with Chad before Charles was murdered? I'm still unclear on that issue.
No. So, okay. One thing we need to say, we may have said at the beginning, Chad is not being charged at all in Charles Vallow's murder, and the Arizona police came out this week and said there will be no charges because they cannot directly link Chad to Charles' death in any way, which means they have all the text messages and communications that Chad wasn't directly involved in that way, or at least there's not enough evidence to take it to trial. This was in July of 2019. It was off and on from October of 2018 when they met till then. I know that was kind of off and on. She went to Rexburg and did podcasts with him. He came to Arizona and met with him and Melanie. And when I said podcasts with him, Melanie Gibb, I think, went every time too. It was like I think it was Melanie's podcast actually.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that it was they weren't together when he was murdered, but I don't know how Chad wasn't in Arizona when Charles was murdered.
No, but like they were talking. They were.
Yeah. So I don't know what she means by what like they were together, but
she was in a relationship with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well.
There.
Yes. We don't know to what extent, but definitely yes.
So we have one from Addie. Hey, Addie.
Hi, Addie. Addie works with us at the Law&Crime Network.
She helped set all this up. I think Chad said all that stuff about zombies to separate her from her family, to have her for himself. I mean, he's a manipulator. He's a sweet talker.
Well, here's the other thing. Just a second, Addie. I have to say, he's not a sweet talker. Chad Daybell has no game with the ladies. You can talk to anybody that's known him his whole life. That's not him. If you see him on video talking, by the way, he was the speaker at all these things. He's the most boring, monotone, weak-sounding speaker that I just don't get it at all. So, anyway,
he's a liar.
That I don't. It was a perfect storm for him and Lori to meet because Lori already had fantastical ideas and meets Chad, who has, and it was this perfect storm. I think Chad was like, she's hot. She believes what I believe. She's really, really in tune with me. we got to get rid of her husband. I don't know, Addie. You know, when you look at it, when you don't know anything, you're like, of course that's what happened. They meet, they want to be together, they kill their spouses. That's, you know, we see these trials all the time.
There's something much deeper.
But this one is so much deeper and stranger than that I don't actually think. I don't know. I don't know if he started out intentionally that way, and then it was like, yeah, we really got to separate her from her family. I don't know.
Yeah. Where's the high-pitched sound coming from? I don't know, Teresa. I'm sorry.
I can figure it out.
No one can figure this out.
Hey, let's do this really quick. I'm going to mute myself, and we'll see if we can blame it on Jesse.
Let's see. We mute at the same time.
Well, no, because we have to see who it's coming from. You mute. Okay, is Jesse muted? Talk. Okay, is the sound gone? You guys have to let us know. Okay, you unmute. It is gone? Okay, all right. You unmute and I'll mute.
It was on. It's gone.
Full time?
It's you.
All right, guys. Well, I apologize because I don't want this to be living forever now in broadcast land.
It's all right.
Jesse, you keep talking. I'm going to disconnect my earbuds and just go off my computer mic and see if.
Okay. Well, again, these questions are great. Somebody wrote, Tiffany wrote, it's her. It's gone. It's back. No. Man. Okay. Let's keep going with some questions here. There's one that was really good. I'm just trying to find it now. Again, the case that keeps on giving. A lot of people have questions on it. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. I'll have this.
Hang on a minute. Testing.
I still hear the sound. But you know what? I don't know how much time we're going to have this broadcast, but anyway, we'll have to deal with it.
Well, I quit.
Let's go to Vallow. Were they trying to wrangle Melanie in when they tried to kill Mr. Bordeaux, her ex-husband, because he kept telling Melanie that Lori and Chad were Looney Tunes?
Brandon Boudreaux is not Melanie Gibb's ex. The other Melanie in this story is Melanie Boudreaux, now Melanie Pulowski. That's Lori's niece, no relation to Melanie Gibb. Her husband, Brandon, is who they believe Alex Cox took a shot at, that they believe Chad said had become a zombie, and the niece, Melanie, needed to leave him and join them, and she did. And she went up to Rexburg with her kids, and then a custody battle ensued. Melanie Gibb, totally different person.
It's crazy. Now that's saying we have an echo.
Good gravy.
Well, I think we're going to have like another 10 minutes.
I'm not a technology person, but I thought we had it figured out.
I know. By the way, let's one of the questions I haven't seen, but I was interesting. If we go over lines when kids were missing, when they are in Hawaii, right? They are just not saying anything. I know the reporters that came up to them, that tried to talk to them. They were silent about everything, Cathy, right?
Say it again, because I just connected my earbud again.
So, Cathy, if we go back to when the kids were missing, and before we even knew what happened, before this couple was even arrested, Chad and Lori weren't saying anything to like anybody about where the kids were. They weren't saying anything to law enforcement, to the court, to reporters.
So to Kay Woodcock, no, to Melanie Gibb, before the welfare check, nothing that we know of. The welfare check instigated Chad and Lori calling Melanie saying, you need to say JJ's with you. And Melanie says, why? Where is JJ? And she says, either she says visiting Kay or she just says Kansas or wherever Kay lives. So that's the time we know that she lied to the police that he was with Melanie, and then she lied to Melanie that he was with somebody else. And she told Melanie also that when Melanie was there, the day before we believe JJ was killed, Melanie was in Rexburg. And she asked where Tylee was, and she said she's at college now, which is just down the street. So those are some lies like that. Like, Lori has to know at this point that her children are dead. Because, okay, maybe you're a teenager, maybe you don't know. You know where your 7-year-old autistic kid is. You know that, Lori knows that JJ's dead starting September 23rd, because she doesn't report him missing, right?
Yeah.
So, but she calls and checks him out of school and says, I'm going to homeschool him now. And
by the way, sorry to interrupt. If there was insanity defense in Idaho, it would never work. It would never work. She knew what she was doing.
So much cover up.
Invading law enforcement. It wasn't. They knew what they were doing.
Oh, and by the way, that about the insanity defense, my understanding that Utah has it this way, and I think Idaho's the same. You can plead guilty by reason of insanity, But what that means is if they deem you to be insane or whatever, you will go just like Lori is right now. You would go to a state hospital, and until this is how Utah does it. And then when they say you're safe, you go to prison and spend all of your time. You don't get to come out.
I don't know. I thought Idaho was one of like the few states where you just couldn't go forward with insanity defense whatsoever.
You can in Utah, but that's how they do it in Utah. Like you can be crazy at time of conviction, and they would send you to the mental hospital, but you have to go to. Oh, let's put up what Final Joe said. Sorry, I just got distracted. I don't know if we want to keep going, guys, because I'm sorry that I'm sending weird sounds.
Let's go for another 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, Cathy, when you said don't get me started, Melanie Gibb, what did you mean? I think we all think she just tried to save her own skin by going public. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, Cathy?
So I did say a little bit about this earlier. I don't think Melanie Gibb, definitely don't think she killed anybody. And I don't think she knew murders happened. What Melanie Gibb knew was that Chad had been predicting that certain people would die, not by murder and homicide, and she didn't say anything about that. She didn't do anything about that. And that when she's up in Idaho for the weekend in September, Lori's saying, look, watch JJ. He looks like a zombie. He's been doing zombie things. She doesn't say anything to anybody after that. When she knows the belief system of those two are zombies have to die. She knows that. She knows that Chad said Charles had become a zombie named Haplos or Ned. That's all. She knows that. She knows that zombies have to die. She knows that Tammy was becoming a zombie. Zombies have to die. She knows that Tylee had become a zombie. She knows that JJ. So Melanie Gibb knew the belief system was these people died. Not that they're going to be murdered. Not that. So why isn't she telling somebody this? I just can't. I can't.
She's taken a lot of heat from coming forward. I'll tell you that much. This is Joey and Wilson. What's the gummy bear mugshot behind you, Jesse? Well, it's actually, I was telling Cathy before we came on air. It's actually supposed to be a very famous painting from Wisby, but my girlfriend got me this copy of it. Don't tell anybody. It's not the real thing, but it looks pretty cool. I like it.
And now this is such a loser backdrop because of your gummy bear.
So yeah, I'm trying to see. I don't see new comments right now, but we'll get into it. I guess the question is, Cathy.
All right, someone says, Cathy, you're fine. It's Jesse. So they're blaming it on you. I'm just saying.
Look, ready, watch.
Oh.
I think really is. I think it's the speakers might be too close to the computer.
Mine?
Maybe.
Because they are, well, no, they're only close to my monitor. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
We were waiting a year. We were waiting for when the murder charges were going to come down. Now we're waiting to see what happens in terms of the competency with Lori Vallow, if her trial is going to go forward. I guess, what are you waiting for next, Cathy? What do you want to see? People are waiting to see if she's going to be charged, or if anybody's going to be charged in Joseph Ryan's death, if anybody's going to be charged in Alex Cox's death. Is Chad going to go to? Is Chad going to start his trial before Lori Vallow? Like, I guess, what are you looking out for next? Well,
I can't wait for Chad's trial, but I think I speak for a lot of people that we want Lori's trial because they're her children. I don't think we're going to see anything for a long time. Look, the court systems are bogged up because of the pandemic. I had to put this up from Kit Kat. She's also worked with me for a very long time. And there's always a long-standing joke that I kill every plant. So any plant that I have is fake. And yes, it is. Thank you very much. So Chad's trial will probably go sooner rather than later. I don't know, you guys. It's going to go on forever. Think about it. It's going to go on. We've seen these cases. Well, Robert Durst got arrested in 2015. We're in 2021. So if that gives you any indication on how things could go. And it's complicated, and there's a lot of charges involved, and Means keeps asking for more and more, and Pryor keeps asking for more and more. And
Rob Wood just keeps getting annoyed at Mark Means.
Rob Wood hates Mark Means, and
remember he tried to get him kicked off the case at one point. Means tried to get Wood kicked off
because he talked to Summer.
Yeah,
he talked to Lori's sister. So there's some bad blood there. There's usually always some bad blood, but behind the scenes, most prosecutors and defense attorneys get along because I've been personally in courtrooms many times and seen the camaraderie during breaks and seen the camaraderie in front of juries, and it's totally different. I really think there's no love lost between these two. By the way, just a funny little story. His name is Rob Wood with no S. And during one of the hearings on Zoom, Mark Means or John Pryor kept calling him Woods, Rob Woods, Rob Woods. And the next thing we see on the Zoom screen is Rob changed his name to Woods and put an S behind it. A little thing I caught, and I was like, he totally just did that on purpose.
I mean, watching.
Hey, Ash Bash says, wait, you only read some questions and not all. If you want to put something in here quickly, like we can't catch them all. And so there's just lots of comments.
And by the way, I like watching them in a courtroom together during a trial will be amazing to see that back and forth. All right. Ann Lee, do you think that Zulema flipped for immunity?
No, not yet. Maybe she will. I don't know.
She has a lot of answers.
Here, I have to put this up. Jesse, what's my job in this live Q&A?
I guess you could call me the host. Cathy, this right here, Cathy Russon, you see her right here, is the answer. She's the encyclopedia. She's the producer. She knows everything about this case. She's Wikipedia. She's a walking Wikipedia. If there was a Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell Wikipedia, that is what's going on here. But hey,
Heather, you're absolutely right. It's my personality. I'm a talker. This is why Jesse's the host. I'm just the keeper of the knowledge, and you are correct.
There was a question. I can't find it. It was really funny. I remember what it is. Okay, I can't find it, but it was. I'm sorry for whoever wrote this. You can write, hey, you're asking my question. You think Chad's writing a book in prison? Yes. 100%.
I don't have any inside knowledge. I'm just saying 100% yes.
Exactly. This is a good one. Okay. Catherine Millard, do you think any of them will be put on death row? So I know the death penalty is an option in Idaho. We haven't had any indication about if they're going to go forward with that. What do you think?
I think they will.
You think, because this is the kind of case you do it.
Yeah. Like, why do you have the death penalty?
For the most egregious kind of
right. It isn't killing 2 kids and then two more people. Well, Arizona's different, but at least Tammy. Now we've got 3 deaths, but 2 of them are children. One is a 7-year-old autistic boy, completely defenseless, these kids. I mean, that's why you have the death penalty. And so whether you're pro or against the death penalty, this is the kind of case that calls for it.
But see, I could see a defense attorney saying the only reason they're going forward with the death penalty is because it's such a high-profile case. They're trying to make an example of them. I could see it. I could see that argument being made, but
I'm not going to stop them from going for it.
Yeah, no.
Rob Wood's going to go. I mean, I think 98%. I think he's going to go.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to one more question. One more question, Cathy, or 2 more?
I'm good with whatever.
All right, let's go 2 more. Snuggle Bunny, do you all think Alex's body will be exhumed for another autopsy? Seems pretty clear that it was blood clots.
Well, they got the reason Tammy's was exhumed is she was just buried not knowing anything. And then a month after that is when they find out, wait a minute, there's kids missing? Wait a minute, these guys got married? Wait a minute, now this is looking fishy. So they exhumed her. Alex had an autopsy done right away. So there would really be no reason to exhume him, presumably. And then that's why I would love to know what they know about Tammy, because once you're embalmed and buried, like if there's any poisons involved, those are gone. And so anyway, I think they have what they need to know on Alex. But
someone said Alex was cremated.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know that either.
All right, let's do one more question. Do you think defense attorneys has pulled a clever move by sectioning Lori before Chad's sessions? I think what you're saying, you think it's clever move having her be declared incompetent, being committed before Chad goes to trial?
Let me tell you what I know about the timeline that may not be common public knowledge. They were charged in May with murder charges for the first time, May 24th or something. Back in March, Means was already having her evaluated. Those records were sealed, but that was already happening in March. And so that was all in the works. And we also know this because on the record, all her hearings were put on hold. And no, she didn't have to appear at anything from March on.
Yeah.
And so that was already in the works before the murder charges at the end of May.
And then Debbie K.
If that's what you meant, Gina.
I think the final one. I want to know, Debbie K goes, I want to know Lori's state of mind at this time compared to a few months ago. Guess what? We all do. We all do. We would love to know.
Something we could talk about, I'm interrupting you, Jesse. Something we could talk about is we do know a little bit because somebody that was in jail with Lori has spoken.
Yes, you're right.
So we do know at some point in time, she's very concerned about her looks. And she was headed to a preliminary hearing very early on and needed to know the jail tricks about putting lipstick on with the Kool-Aid and all that. And that she prayed a lot and that she, I don't want to quote anything, but it was like kind of like prancing around like life is good. There's nothing going on. I have 2 dead kids. Who cares? You know, she's not talking like that, but that's who her attitude was and was concerned really about how she looked going to her hearings. So we know that, but I think something took a turn. I don't know.
I don't see either of them overly concerned. I mean,
not if they truly believe what they believe. I guess you don't have to be concerned. I don't know.
I don't know. All right. Well, I think we answered a lot of questions.
Oh, wait a minute. Trippy lit, real quick, because we named the live this. Doomsdayers, or believe the end is coming. The end of the world is coming. We know what cults are, so we've sort of nicknamed this couple the Doomsday cult duo because their whole thing was about preparing the earth for the end.
Yep.
Basically, summing it up.
I thought it was catchy. Well, everybody, thanks for watching.
All right.
We probably will do this again.
We have to, right?
More developments coming down.
We should have been doing this sooner because there's so much.
No, I'm glad we waited because we were waiting for the murder charges, and when it rains, it pours, it hit at this relatively very close together. So I'm glad we did this, and hopefully this made more sense for people moving forward because it's a complicated case.
And send your hate mails to Jesse.
Please do.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Cathy. Appreciate it. Thanks, Addie. Bye, everybody.